there. I'd like to call to order the regular board meeting of Henry Ford College trustees, October 21st, 2019. Can we have a roll call, please?
Hussein Berry.
Here.
Mary Lane.
Here.
Roxanne McDonald is on her way. Michael Mead.
Here.
Adam Mozip.
Here.
James Thorpe here. Chair Mary Pelichkoff.
Here. Next, please.
Approval of minutes for the following Henry Ford College Board of Trustee meetings: the Policy Committee special meeting from September 16, 2019, and the regular meeting of September 16, 2019. The recommended action is to make any necessary corrections and move to approve these minutes.
So moved.
Support.
Oh, somebody just showed up.
Projection.
Where'd that come from?
Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes?
I would
Yes.
like to have added in the, when we were talking about the, I think it was the grant that we got from the Ralph Wilson Foundation and the programs that's going to bring about, I'd like to have a record that my concern is what happens once that money runs out. Are we going to be able to sustain those programs or look for an alternative funding? Because right now that's not in our budget.
And you did discuss this at the, because this is going into the minutes. I can't remember.
I did bring it up.
Okay, you did
Yes.
bring it up.
I brought
I
up
don't
my
want to
concern.
have.
I remember you bringing it
I
up.
Okay,
brought
there
it
you
back
go.
concern.
Okay, we got, because I can't remember whether you brought
Thanks.
it up. I don't want you adding to the minutes after the fact. Okay, very good. Any other corrections or additions to the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any nays? Please attach a unanimous roll. Next, please.
Recognition and acknowledgements.
Thank you, President Kavaluna and Chair Petrikov and the members of the board. My name is Matthew Kasuba. I'm a sophomore majoring in business administration and plan to attend the University of Michigan Dearborn after completing my studies here at HFC. I was a golfer at Huron High School in New Boston and was recruited to the HFC to compete on the golf team.
Mr. Kasuba, hang on just a second.
We got a loose wire or something.
Mr. Adama behind you may be able to help you.
And he thought he got over the hard part. Somebody's.
Uh-oh. Someone's kicking their feet.
My legs are
Think we're good, Don?
Don't think so. Okay.
I was a golfer at Huron High School in New Boston and was recruited to Henry Ford to compete on the golf team. And so far, it's been nothing but positives. Last year, I was named to the MCCAA Eastern Conference All-Freshman Team and also received Academic All-MCCAA and Hawk Academic Team honors. My goal this year is to continue to excel academically and to qualify to the NJCAA Golf Championship in Joplin, Missouri this spring. Now I'm pleased to read this month's HFC Board acknowledgments. Congrats to our golf team for finishing as the MCCAA Eastern Conference runners-up this season. This team finished second in the 8-team field. Last year, the Hawks finished in 5th place. Individually, Matt Kasuba finished 5 strokes behind the leader to finish second in the conference, while Alana Jones finished tied for 8th. Both earned MCCAA All-Conference honors, and Alana became the first female in 93 years in the history of the MCCAA to earn All-Conference golf honors. Freshmen Joseph Keaton and Donnie Andrewsak earned All-Freshman team honors. The season will continue in the spring with qualification state and regional tournaments to determine berths to the NJCAA National Golf Championships. Congratulations to HFC student Najwa Abdouye. Najwa placed as the top female student in the Student Math League contest during the 2018-2019 academic year. On October 1st, the Office of Student Activities held a goal-setting presentation to encourage students to set goals and develop an action plan to accomplish their goals. This event was a huge success with 71 students in attendance. Discover Day is our largest on-campus recruiting event each year where high school students from throughout the area are invited to campus to discover HFC academic programs and university transfer opportunities available to them here at HFC. This year was our biggest recruiting event ever, with 850 students, about 200 more than last year, from 27 area high schools, including all 3 Dearborn Public Schools. Current HFC students were also invited to the event so they too could speak with faculty and learn about programs of interest. We are currently soliciting feedback from both our high school guests and the faculty and staff who worked the event, but early indications are that 2019 was our best received Discovery Day yet. Congratulations to the administration and recruiting team and all the volunteers who helped make this day a success. And on Thursday, October 17th, the Career Services Office held their 8th annual Career Expo on HFC's main campus. With 100 organizations/employees represented and over 350 job seekers passing through, this year's expo was the largest on record. The Career Services table would like to thank KLA Labs for serving as our principal sponsor. KLA Labs and HFC have enjoyed a successful partnership over the years, and this expo team was just another great example of the partnership. Additionally, we would like to thank Buffalo Wild Wings for sponsoring our faculty/employee mixer prior to the start of the expo. Over 30 faculty took the opportunities to meet with employees in their field to exchange ideas and set up future collaborations. The Career Expo is a yearly event meant to bring employees from Southeast Michigan to our campus to meet with students and graduates and to learn about all the wonderful programs HFC has to offer. A big thank you to the entire Career Services team for all their hard work in making this expo happen. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to be this month's reader. Are there any questions I can answer for you?
Well, President Cavallina? Who raised,
I
who
did.
raised a hand?
Well done, and congratulations on everything.
Thank
That's
you.
terrific. I'm just curious, when did you take up golfing?
I took it up my freshman year of high school. My grandpa was really big into golf, but we were a hockey family. So he pushed me. I'm the only one in my family who golfs and is pretty decent at it, I guess.
Do you still play hockey?
Yeah.
Okay.
Trustee Moses?
What has been you said you're a business major?
Yes.
What has been your favorite class? You don't have to mention names, but just the name of the class.
I like my intro to managerial accounting class.
Okay. Two accountants are cheering for you. Very well.
Okay.
You may have some job prospects, just let you know.
Mr. Kasuba, am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
Yes.
Okay. You plan to transfer to University of Michigan Dearborn, so this question I ask of almost everyone who says where they're going to transfer. You plan to graduate from HFC first, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the right answer.
Right down the fairway on the first one. Okay. When you do grow up, what do you plan to do with yourself?
Haven't really thought about it, or I thought about it, but haven't really locked anything down. I thought about being a financial advisor.
Good choice.
You got a lot of support in the room.
But my parents pushed me into a business degree. They said you can do anything with it, and,
Absolutely.
and just keeping an open mind right now.
Okay. How have you found, you said everything has been, I don't want to use the words, everything has been positive so far. Is the education what you've expected? Has it been a good institution to you?
Yeah, I think going out of high school, going into a college, guys, this was a good starting place. I like the classes here. I like the size of the campus. I think some of my buddies go to a big campus and they're overwhelmed with the class sizes, and I think going to a 2-year college and then transferring is the way to go personally. And this has just been really really fun so far. And my golf coach, he went here a couple years back, and he says you're gonna miss it.
Okay.
I think we got a spokesperson in the making here.
Regarding the golf coach, so you mentioned your teammate Alana Jones. She had your job several board meetings ago and did a great job, and you did a great job tonight also. So she's the first female golfer in the 93-year history of the MCCA, and you made mention of how well she did. Did she or you have a lower stroke count in that tournament?
She beat me sometimes. I beat her sometimes. It really depended
As it should be.
Really depended on the day.
You may want to look into politics. Mr. Kasuba, the last thing I want to do, and you don't have to respond to this at all, but I do want to make mention that Trustee Barry, to my right here, right before we started, gave you a rather large bag of
Goodies.
HFC swag. And I do want to say thank you to Trustee Barry for supporting our students. And maybe you can talk him into giving me some golf lessons. If there are no other questions, Mr. Kasuba, good luck in the rest of your term, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thanks for
Very
having me.
much. Thank you.
Well done.
Okay, next item, please.
President's items.
Thank you, Trustee Thorpe and Madam Chair. I'll be quick. We have some presentations that don't involve me, so we'll get to them quickly. First, I want to do, as I always do, I want to make mention of the items in your packet. As John Sadkowski, who is on vacation now, but gives us every month, we have the rainbow chart of cash, and this is an indication of how our cash position looks throughout the entire fiscal year. I'll draw your attention to a few things. One is that we continue to invest strategically throughout the year, and this is shown throughout this year. Our low cash point is getting later in the year, which is showing we're having a better cash position throughout the calendar year, but the last page of this document shows our low cash point to be June 28, almost right at the end of the fiscal year. The next document that I routinely draw your attention to is the results of the budget at the end of the last month, and the last month is September of 2019. That document shows you a couple things that you should not be surprised of because of what we've been talking about this term. We have more revenue than we expected, and that was because of our enrollment increase on several metrics, but most notably the credit hour. Dr. Herbst is going to be giving a presentation to you about that in detail, so I will not go into that. I will, however, note that our revenue to expense is in the black so far by the end of September. We are not, I would say, guaranteed this continue throughout the year. Of course, we're just about to get right back into the enrollment season for the winter term, and again, that enrollment is the best and most accurate driver of our revenue and our budget position. The last thing I'll draw your attention to is we continue to watch expenses. You can see that in our expenditures for budget. We are 2.4% below budget on expenditures. Any questions on any of those financial documents? We have presentations today from two individuals that we'll get to, but our committees, of course, will give you reports that they had a report from our Plant Moran colleagues, and we will have a presentation from Dr. Herbst on the enrollment question at our institution. You'll recall that Trustee Lane asked for a report in October. She actually said, I'd like a report in 6 months, and now that 6 months has come. Dr. Herbst will be giving a presentation on what we've done in enrollment so far and what we see in the future. I also sent around to you all a funding memorandum that John Sadkowski delivered to me and then I forwarded on to you about the questions of how we will fund the significant capital projects over the next 2.5 years. And I expect that the Finance Committee will give you a report on that because I addressed that memo with the Finance Committee about an hour ago. Finally, you'll recall, not finally, but getting towards the end here, you'll recall last month I had the solemn and difficult job of explaining to you that we'd lost one of our colleagues, Randall Ironman. I want to give you an update on him, and it is as follows. When I took the position of president a little more than a year ago, there was a parking spot for the president outside of this building, and we quickly changed that to a parking spot that's devoted to employees who earned reputations of excellence and teamwork and got nominations from their colleagues to have that parking spot, and we named it the Hawk Hero parking spot. That was something that Dr. Glass spearheaded with the Employment Recognition Committee, and it's been a process. In fact, we've spread that across the campus, but the cabinet and I have decided that we're going to change that from the Hawk Hero spot to the Hawk Hero spot in honor of Randall Ironman. And that's right outside the door here, where it will be prominently displayed as our memorial, so to speak, of the teamwork that Randall expressed. And in fact, the month that he passed away, his colleagues nominated him, and he was supported as the Hawk Hero for that month. Changing topics, I have continued a second round of listening tours for my time here as the president. This listening tour is giving feedback to the groups I meet with, particularly those employee groups here at the college, about what I've learned in my first year and what they can help me understand is what needs to be improved. And that continues. I'm happy to have any one of you trustees join me anytime. I report out to you where I am. In fact, if you'd like, tonight's listening tour is for the third shift of custodial staff, and that'll be at 10 p.m. this evening.
Any volunteers?
The meeting will be this long.
That's only half a joke. I take these seriously. I enjoy learning from my colleagues what's working, what's not working, and I look forward to meeting with my colleagues at 10 p.m. this evening. Sure. The last thing I'll say is what I'd like to start doing as your president is giving you the opportunity as trustees each month that it comes up, the opportunity to guess whose birthday it will be on this board. And this birthday person is in 2 days. So.
Well, somebody made a face, so. She doesn't have a good poker hand here.
No, I don't have a good poker face.
So in 2 days, Trustee McDonald, happy birthday.
Thank
For pointing out that I'll be an even older lady.
I didn't say that. I just said you
But
had.
it's implied.
And so that may be the shortest report I've ever made, and I appreciate the time. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. If not, I'll let the agenda continue, Madam Chair.
Trustee Lean.
Not a question, just to thank you for recognizing a regular person, employee.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of makes me sad all the time that the big names in lights are people that buy honors. They buy honors by money donations, and of course money donations are important. I just hate sometimes that it's being done for a tax write-off, so you're like double dipping rather than out of the generosity of your heart. But that gesture is obviously one where people are honoring him for his service. So I really like to see regular people like all of us be honored, because we're the people that do the work every day, instead of sometimes somebody whose name might be on a building. So I think it's well earned, and it's a nice thought. Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you, Mary, for that comment.
All right. Next item, please.
Special reports. First, HFC audit presentation for fiscal year ended June 30, 2019. Dr. David Cunningham.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce Dana Coombs and Courtney Heller, that's going to present on the results of our audit this year. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having us today. Courtney and I met with the audit committee prior to this meeting, Trustee Mosip and Trustee Barry, to go through, I'd say, a more in-depth audit results, covered our end of audit letter as well as the financial results, and I'm happy to report that the college received a clean, unmodified opinion. And great news, we did not have any audit adjustments as a result of the audit we performed, nor did we have any findings for our federal awards audit. So kudos to the team at HFC, and we really appreciate all of the hard work that they put into the audit. It is not easy to come out with no findings or audit adjustments. Courtney is going to cover some highlights of the financial results. If there's any questions along the way, don't hesitate to ask us as we're going through.
Thank you. Included in your board packets are our presentation printouts, and we also have it up on the screen. So the first slide we have here is the overall net position of the college. For those of you that might look at some for-profit statements, that would be similar to equity in the for-profit world. And what this is a 3-year comparison of that net position, starting at the top of the net investment in capital assets and working down the schedule. There's designated for specific expenditures. And then towards the bottom, we've pulled out the pension and OPEB liabilities. You might remember last year the college had to bring on those other post-retirement liabilities onto the balance sheet, and I believe in 2015 brought on the pension. So here we've pulled it out to get to a total net position of the college of about $77.6 million, which would be an increase of $916,000 from the prior year. Okay, moving on. The next slide is the general fund net position. And again, we've pulled out those pension and OPEB liabilities, and that's really to eliminate the, I'd say, the noise of those liabilities to get to the true operations of the general fund, which would be on that left-hand side. Looking at that, total revenue exceeded total expenses in the general fund by about $875,000. And down at the bottom, you'll see we've got some footnotes with the budget. General fund beat budget by about $440,000 this year. Okay. Moving to the next slide, the unrestricted net position of the college. So this would be the general fund and the auxiliary fund combined together. We've got a 5-year comparison so you can see how those funds have changed over the years. And this is really what's available to the college for spending. And again, the general fund numbers exclude those pension and OPEB liabilities. Down at the bottom, you'll see in that total column, there's about an increase of $1.2 million this year. Okay. Moving to the next slide, we have a chart that shows the historical unrestricted net position across all funds, and then the unrestricted net position of the general fund, again excluding those liabilities. And what this chart really shows is the increase in both unrestricted net position for all funds and the general fund since 2016. Okay. All right, and then next slide shows a breakdown of the general fund revenue. And off to the right, we also have some information on the 2017-18 statewide averages across all community colleges. And really what this shows, as I'm sure all of you know well, property taxes are a much lower percentage of the total general fund revenue here at Henry Ford. And you'll see that it's a larger percentage for other peer institutions. Continuing on to our next slide, this would be the general fund expenditures. Again, off to the right, we have information from other community colleges in the state for the averages. And we wanted to point out that we often look at instruction and instructional support as one item because there's some discrepancies in how colleges allocate expenses. And I'd say that Henry Ford's total for those two is right in line with the statewide averages for those expenses as a total of general fund. And up in the top, we have the bad debt expense, which we've historically broken out. And you'll see, if you were to compare it to last year, it's really remained flat as a result of the college continuing to manage the receivables portfolio. Okay. Moving on to our last slide, this would be the total revenue and expenses of the general fund. And what this is showing is that as the revenues change, the college has done a great job of managing expenses so that they're in line. And the dotted line off to the right would be the budgeted general fund for next year, which shows similar results. Okay. Are there any questions Dana and I can answer?
Yes, Trustee Mead.
I'd just like to thank you for comparing our budget with the statewide budget, that gives us some idea how well we're doing. And we obviously spend more in instruction than state average, and that's a plus.
Correct. Yeah, and I think a lot of the institutions we work with want to know how they're doing in comparison to their peers. And Trustee Mosip asked a very good question in our meeting, in where we're getting the data from, so that he could analyze it as well and review it. And because there is a lot of data that's pulled by the state to compare institutions.
Okay, thanks.
Trustee Lane?
Two questions I have. The bad debt at $803,000. We've asked this question a couple of times. Is that's pretty much as low as we're able to get it? Do you have any ideas on how they can it realistically be lowered at all?
Realistically, it's probably bottomed out. If any lower, it's probably going to be very, very small percentage difference year over year. So essentially what that represents is the students that don't attend all the way through classes and need to return a portion of the Pell funds. And so the institution has to do that and then try to collect from the student, which sometimes is not easy. In the bad debt has changed dramatically since 2014 because of the controls that the college put into place to reduce that bad debt expense. But unfortunately, because of, we call it the return to Title IV dollars for students that don't make it all the way through, unfortunately, it's a cost of doing business at this point.
Every year you also give us the caveat that that you're only selecting a sample, and I always hear that and I think, okay, what does that really look like? I mean, how much are you going into the weeds on that stuff? So, I mean, I imagine in John Setkowski's office, like giant folders of receipts. How do you select what accounts you really scrutinize, and to what level? We see what's called a P card statement. We see that every year or every month at the district, and I'm just wondering, I mean, are you comparing all of those? How do you test for reliability, I guess is what my question is.
Yep, so there's, I'd say, two portions of our test. One, we get an understanding of the internal controls to help us assess how good are the internal controls first, because that will change our sample sizes that you mentioned. And so during that process, we're looking at how expenditures are cut, who's approving them, who has access to checks and wire transfers and things like that to get a sense for how the controls are. And then based on that, we select our samples. And I would say we have a risk-based approach in that we're looking at the areas of higher risk. And we do, as a requirement from the audit standards, we do meet with the audit committee in advance to make sure, you're obviously here on a monthly basis, you're seeing what's going on. We also review the board minutes. But if there's a concern that the board or committee has, we want to know that up front, so we put that into our audit plan. But yes, it is on a sample basis, but we feel, based on our risk-based approach, that we're testing the things that we need to.
And then are you comparing statements with, electronic statements with, I don't know, what else would you compare it with?
Yeah, so we're selecting a sample to then look at and make sure it's an actual expenditure. We're looking at the wire transfer or check. So yes, and a lot of the data is electronic. So even the smart folks, like the one that was excited about managerial accounting, when they're going to school, they're learning about data manipulation, analytics, and so we run that through software to make sure we're picking the right samples. When all of our clients are always asking, how do you always pick the one that's wrong? And it's like, there's a reason. Because of how we're selecting our samples.
Thank you.
Trustee Mosip?
Yep, I see that our other in this pie chart, expenses are way 6% more than the state average. So can you go, or just tell us the categories that fall into this other expense?
Yeah, so this would be for the general fund, and so primarily what would be included in there are rental income. So a portion of this building was rented out, and so that's a portion, as well as interest income. So the institution does have some investments, as you see on your rainbow chart each month, and so